Hello, everyone, and welcome. I'm Gilda Evans, bringing you the Autism Resource Podcast. This podcast and the ARP website are your one-stop knowledge and resource space for autism and much more. I'm very pleased to have John Graham join me as my guest today. John shipped out on a freighter when he was 16, hitchhiked through the Algerian Revolution at 19, and was on the team that made the first ascent of Denali's North Wall at 20. A climb so dangerous it's never been repeated. He hitchhiked around the world at 22, working as a correspondent in every war he came across, and was a U.S. Foreign Service officer for 15 years. He has supported initiatives for peace and justice in Asia, Africa, and Cuba, including engineering a UN plan that helped end apartheid in South Africa. For the last 42 years, he's been a leader of the Giraffe Heroes Project. Welcome, John, and thanks so much for taking the time to join me and discuss the work you do and the life you've lived with your wife, Anne.
I'm delighted to be here, Gilda. Thanks for inviting me. The key thing is giraffe.org. I want people to go there to find out more because they need to know more about what we do and I are up to.
That's exactly what we're going to talk about. So let's get started. And to begin, how do you describe yourselves in terms of being one neurodivergent and the other neurotypical?
Struggling. Say that because we just had an episode just last night. She was trying to get a yogurt maker to work, and that's exactly the kind of thing where Aspies and neurotypicals have a difficult time. And we were just looking at it. We've been doing this for 43 years, and we still haven't got it right all the time. But for example, the classic example, I'm very specific. I follow direction. Aspie, high-functioning Aspie, but nonetheless, here we are. Anne is a poet. Not only is she a neurotypical, she's a poet. And so I felt she was looking at the yogurt directions as a poet. Oh, you do this, and it turns white, and it's this and that. You've got to look at the directions. You turn it to 7, and then you wait for 10 minutes, and then turn it to 10. That's how it works. And forth and back and forth. So we've been dealing with that. And sometimes, like last night, it's a struggle. Other times we do it so often that one of us or both of us back off. And I will try to be more poetic, more colorful to try to get under the hood that way. And we'll struggle with learning the difference between this kind of a screw, kind of a bolt, so that we can get the chair fixed or whatever. So that's something. Ask me that mixed marriage couples, is to say, I don't know if your viewers use that term, mixed marriage, but we do. That's something that mixed marriages need to constantly be aware of, is that sometimes one of you is speaking Mongolian and the other is speaking Spanish. And you need to say, I think I can say that in Spanish, or I can say that in Mongolian, and struggle with that. But it's not really fixable, but being aware of the difficulty makes it usually more easy. And the fact that Anne and I love each other, maybe difficulties like getting that yogurt maker to work on it when we're frowning at each other. But nonetheless, close connection helps too, because it provides more patience to work through things like NT versus Aspie thing or a yogurt maker I described.
Absolutely. My gosh, I can't agree with you more. Patience and communication are key to so many things in terms of relationships and getting along and making things work. So that now you've been married a long time. So when in your marriage did you, as you say, figure out what was going on?
It was only about 10 years ago. Anne figured it out because she loves me, and we both recognized communication had always been a struggle. And so she started reading a whole lot of books, and she got a book that I think had 100 things that typify people with high-functioning Asperger's, Aspies, in other words, people like me. And she read through it, and she came to me one evening over dinner and said, I read this book, and there's 100 things that typify Aspies. And as far as I can tell, you've got 92 of them. Oh my goodness. And so I said, oh, really? And she went through it. And one of them was specificity versus, I'll call, poetic interpretations of reality. Another was recognizing faces. I don't dare watch complicated movie without Anne Suggle by my side, because I'll look at a character. I think, wait a minute, we just saw that character in the last scene. It's the same one. And yes, they both have blonde hair, but they're different. And sometimes we'll just put the movie or the streaming on pause because we have to. And she will say, that's the cousin, and this is the aunt. Okay. Now, they both have blonde hair. That's true. But notice that. So I just don't get it. And also, I realized the struggle with complicated plots. For example, things as simple as a flashback, for example, or time travel. Oh, time travel movies drive me crazy because we're present time, past time, and we'll hit the pause button and say, John, they're 10 years earlier. They haven't even met yet. Okay. All right. Oh, I get it. They haven't even met yet. Of course, that's why they're saying what they're saying. Okay. And then there's the technical things, like that yogurt maker. This is just absolutely sick. Anne is, by the way, she's not only a poet, but she's very smart, and she knows a lot of stuff. But on the other hand, sometimes she'll be completely flummoxed by a complicated technical project, and I'll just take one look at it, say, no, you have to outwit the machine. These directives were written by someone in North Korea or something, and you have to interpret what they're trying to say. So you press it this way from with a slight sideways pressure, and it works. I can do that, and I do it all the time. And that really saves us some grief sometimes, dealing with some technical things. So those kinds of things you just learn to do. And it's amazing that it took until 10 years ago, in other words, 30 years into our marriage. And then I credit Anne with being the one that found that list. Then I got into it. And I began thinking about my childhood and my career. I was a Foreign Service officer, and you've got to be pretty damn good at dealing with people to be a good Foreign Service officer. And I was at the top of my game in the Foreign Service. Not only that, but my introduction that you read, I'm not going to go through it all because we only have 20 minutes or so. But I've done one difficult and dangerous thing after the other, either climbing mountains where you really have to have your wits about you, or I was in the middle of wars and revolutions, just bullets whistling by my ear, where I had to think quickly and I had to lead teams of people just to stay alive. And I managed to do all that. So the idea that I was an Aspie never occurred to me. But then when Ed brought out this list, I thought, how the hell am I still alive? I did all those difficult and dangerous things. I was at the United Nations doing complicated negotiations. I'm really proud of the fact that I helped end apartheid in South Africa, for example, which was a very complicated, difficult deal, and I did it. But how did I do that? And I started reading these books on Asperger's, and the one that impacted me most was a book called Look Me in the Eye. You probably know about it. By John Robinson. It's an absolutely brilliant book, and it told me what I wanted to know, because Robinson describes his child as an Asperger. I thought, yeah, that was me. That was me. I just couldn't get along with kids. I was always eating my lunch in the cafeteria. So Robinson's book really helped me realize what it was like being an Aspie, especially as a teenager. I was brilliant. Unlike Robinson, I didn't have a problem in learning, so I wasn't exactly like him. But I got good grades, I got into Harvard, etc. My career blossomed from there. Nonetheless, there's a lot of things that he described as a young man, as a teenager, and in his early 20s that really resonated with me. And I came back with the fact that, just like him, I had to totally struggle without knowing what I was doing. Because, of course, in those years, I don't know if anyone talked about Asperger. We were talking 1950s, 1960s. But I obviously had to struggle to learn how to be a diplomat, for example, where nuance is everything. Managed to do it. So that's why I didn't realize that I had Asperger's really until my marriage, and out of frustration at yet another miscommunication where I'm talking Mongolian and she's talking Spanish, that she finally had enough and started doing some serious research and discovered, among many other things, this list of 100 attributes, which I fit 92 of. And then I got interested, saying, yeah, that's it. And that book and her research helped a lot, because at least we know now what we're dealing with, and when to back off and when to come back at it from another angle, or me to learn how to speak Spanish a little bit better and she learning how to speak Mongolian a little bit better.
It must be wonderful to have that aha moment. I know I've had them. So you have that aha moment and you suddenly realize that explains so much. It's like just this whole weight just gets lifted off your shoulders.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. It's like the curtains part and you realize, oh my goodness, yes, that's what it is. It helps me understand after all this time. And it sounds like you and Anne are really a great team. You fit together very well. You approach things in different ways, but because you approach things in different ways, you make a great team because you've covered all the bases.
Yeah, we have. And some of it has to do with ASPE, NT, spectrum stuff, and some of it is just our personalities. And sometimes it's hard to tell which is which, but it doesn't really make any difference because you're absolutely right. We work together as a team. We've been business partners for almost the entirety of our marriage, 43 years, running a profit, a global movement called the Giraffe Heroes Project. Just say a word about that. It's a global movement. It's not about animals. It's about people sticking their necks out, hence the metaphor. Here's a good example. Anne started the Giraffe Heroes Project because it was all about recognizing behaviors and people sticking their necks out. In other words, being courageous to solve a public problem, whether it was a problem with violence in the streets or poverty or crimes against women or whatever. The whole idea of the Giraffe Project was to find people who were taking these kinds of risks, telling their stories. In the beginning, it was with fax machines and records, and then moving other people to stick their necks out too is the oldest strategy in the world. I guess Neanderthals were doing it around their campfires. If you want people to be heroic, you told them stories of other heroes. Anne had understood that. Now, at the same time, it's curious because this is like the early 1980s. And by then, I left the Foreign Service because the Foreign Service was moving too slowly. I was getting increasingly idealistic, and the Foreign Service was just moving too slowly. I wanted to save the world. I thought I could do it in my ASPE way by giving wonderful speeches and by analyzing problems and writing learned articles in Foreign Policy magazine, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. It wasn't getting a lot of success. And on the other hand, wasn't doing any of it. She was starting the Giraffe Heroes Project, which was all about telling stories. She was a storyteller. I thought it was kind of lightweight. Me, the ASPE, thought what she, the NT, was doing was lightweight because how could you possibly change people's behavior by telling stories? That was like, was I wrong? Oh, that's stupid. None of this had anything to do with our knowledge of the spectrum. It's just who we were. But then we fell in love. I began to see what she was doing as an agent for change with the Giraffe Project was way more powerful than what I was doing with fancy speeches and articles. So we met and married, and I fell in love not only with her, but with the whole idea of becoming a storyteller. So I guess in many ways moved toward her end of the spectrum, although I would never have called it that at the time. And we've been working together now for 43 years. And so we're husband and we're wife and parents and business partners. And many people say, how the hell are you business partners as well as the husband? I love my husband and wife, but geez, the idea of being business partners, so you're together 24/7. Whoa, I could never do that. And I do that and have done that for 43 years. And love conquers all is part of it. Part of it is we totally share the same vision of making the world a place, helping other people, being of service, moving other people. We're both in our own way communicators, and we both are totally aligned with the mission of the Giraffe Heroes Project. So we're working together on a business of which we are both passionate. So all of those things override the differences of the Mongolian Spanish communications, my inability to read faces or whatever, her being quicker to grab nuances in some ways, me being better with technical things. For example, maybe some complicated software things, whatever. So that's how we do it. It's learning. And now it's easier because so many things we're now able to say, oh, he is not just being difficult. She's just being difficult. This is another spectrum thing. So we got to back off and figure out in terms of the spectrum. And we often are able to do that. So it has made life a little easier.
Well, I love your mission. I love what you do. I love the way you describe how you and Anne work together. But when things aren't going so smoothly, what are some of the solutions you've arrived at to keep the peace between you and make the relationship work?
Yeah, it's no surprise. It's patience.
Yeah.
It's just backing. It's also knowledge, like I just said. It's understanding that we are two people on the spectrum, a pretty high functioning aspect. So I'm not speaking for people who are dealing with more serious cases, but I'm a pretty high functioning aspect, and is a poet, but he's a lot more than a poet. So it is capable for us to meet in the middle, but it takes patience, like I said. It takes a lot of patience. It obviously helps too that we keep coming back together because we're in love and we're friends and we understand that if dealing with a particular thing isn't working, and even leads to one of us stopping out of the room, which occasionally happens, we'll come back. We'll come back at it. We'll figure it out. Give it another try. Come at it from another angle, all of which cycles back patience, having respect. You don't have to be married and in love, but having respect for the person you're dealing with, understanding that you're dealing with something that in some ways is beyond your control, some ways it is in your control, and then moving forward at another angle until you get it right. In some cases, like a movie, oh, I don't know, say The Matrix, for example, I just don't understand. And no matter how often Ant hits pause and it tries to explain to me what the hell is happening with these crazy things happening, I just can't get it. In some cases, we just say, okay, let's just leave that one. We're not even going to try.
The way you said that, patience and communication and respect, those are some pretty basic, important qualities to have and to express for just about anything. So I can understand that, and I certainly agree with you, and I can certainly see how that can help a whole lot in terms of smoothing things out in your relationship. But I do have another question I want to pose to you. What do you think is most needed in terms of guidance, general knowledge, for example, when it comes to communication and relationships between those who are neurotypical and those who are neurodivergent? What would you say if somebody were to put a guide out there for people who are in, as you say, mixed marriages? What would that be? What would it say?
It's like I mentioned one book. I think there were probably dozens. But I think reading about other people's experience has been really helpful to me and to Anne because I didn't understand how it functioned as a kid, for example. Now I do because I read this particular memoir, but there are others, and that's helped a lot. So a lot of it is getting advice and learning from the stories of other people who have been through it. That's been hugely important for both.
Well, that certainly makes a lot of sense. Then thank you so much, John, for your time, for sharing your story with us today. And I want to say you are welcome back anytime.
Thank you very much. I think what you're doing is a tremendous service. It's like that book I was reading, Look Me in the Eye. A podcast like this, other people will say, oh, here's a couple that actually have been together for 43 years. They must be doing something right. I'm going to listen to this podcast over again and see if I can pick up some tips. If that happens, I would be delighted.
I certainly hope it will. And I thank you so much for those very kind words.
Thank you, Gilda.
If you like what you hear, please subscribe to the podcast. You can find it on Apple iTunes, Amazon Music, Spotify, and other popular platforms. Don't forget to follow us on Facebook and Instagram. And if you would like more information on this topic or anything else we've covered on the Autism Resource Podcast, visit us online at autismresourceproject.org/podcast. I want to thank our listeners for spending part of their day with us. This is the Autism Resource Podcast, and I'm Gilda Evans, reminding you to take care of yourself and that special person in your life. If you have a topic you'd like us to cover in the future, contact us through the website or comment on any of our social media channels. And be sure to check out our growing website often, since we are continually adding useful information and resources.